Good morning and welcome to Today in L.A. I'm Mike Amos. He's Bill Rice Jr. and it is a Wednesday across the country and across the world. And
they get here fast, don't they?
No question about it. And football season is here, and we're one day away from going to school in the public schools. Is that right?
That's right. My daughter Maggie met her second grade teacher last night. Mrs. Key, Dawn Key, and they start school Thursday morning. You know why?
Is Miss Key new? Or that?
It must be John Key's wife.
That's
and
right.
daughter-in-law.
Must be. That's right.
But she's so excited because Miss Key has something unique. She has a couch in her classroom.
Oh, does she?
Yeah, if you're a good student and do all your assignments, you get to go sit on the couch and read. Isn't that neat?
That is neat. That is neat.
I never remember a classroom that had a couch.
Yeah. Of course, it is a Wednesday, August the 7th, and we're moving right along. School does start in the city schools tomorrow. They started yesterday in the county schools, and they got a couple of days head start. And, of course, we talked to Bart Snyder yesterday, and they're getting ready, and everybody's having fun, and this is a fun time. And, you know, those first few days of coming back to school were good because, you know, you saw people you hadn't seen all summer, and, you know, that was the way it was when I was growing up. But nowadays, you know, the school seems like it never ends because after they get out in June, a couple of probably a week to 10 days, they're back on the practice field.
Don't you think they start school too soon?
Oh, gosh, Wade. No question about it. Why on earth don't you at least give them June to do what they want to do, you know?
I think school should start in September. I'm old-fashioned. I don't understand this start.
Well,
and I think football practice should... I think the players should have football practice before school started.
No question about it. And we got a call coming in from...
But no, I don't think anybody's going to listen to me, Mike.
Good morning. How you doing?
Hey, morning.
Where you calling from this morning, sir?
Drayton Beach, Florida.
Drayton Beach, Florida. Glad to have you aboard. Is the crowd still down there, or are they starting to dwindle a little bit since school starts?
Yeah, it's starting to dwindle a little bit, finally. I mean, there's, you know, probably 100 people on bicycles instead of about 1,000. It's still, I went through Seaside yesterday, and, I mean, there's still a lot of people out and about, and a lot of kids I saw, you know.
Let me ask you something about bicycles. Of course, you're right; they're everywhere, and how expensive are they? And also, how about insurance? Are they insured when you get on one of those things?
I don't know about bicycles. Maybe like on a scooter or something like that. But I don't think you have to sign your life away to rent a bicycle.
No, but
maybe one of the electric bikes is a little different than just a regular pedal bike. I'm not sure though.
And the trails are not real obvious down there either, are they?
Well, I mean, you got the huge bike trail
on 38, yeah.
That goes the whole length, yeah. I mean, the only issue you have to deal with is crosswalks, you know. Unfortunately, some people stop at crosswalks, some people don't stop at crosswalks. My wife makes a huge point for me to stop at every crosswalk.
Yeah. And, you know, I say that to your mother a lot, that, you know, sometimes you're taking a big chance on whether or not they stop at crosswalks. It's a good way to get run over.
Are you supposed to do that in the parking lots at grocery stores?
I don't know how that works.
Somebody just walked right in front of me the other day at a grocery store.
Yeah, anytime somebody's at a crosswalk, you're supposed to stop.
But now, is it during school hours, or that's any time?
That's any time down here. I mean, that's just the way, I mean, you should approach it. I mean, if they're at a crosswalk, you're supposed to stop and let them go across.
What do y'all think about that train track on Highway 231 near the Sanders companies?
That's been there for years. I don't know. I've always just been used to it.
I know. We all just go right over it, but some trucks and school buses stop. Yeah. And to me, it's more dangerous when they stop because the people aren't expecting them to stop.
over the years, the rule was you would stop there, and the buses and trucks would actually open their doors. Have you ever seen that before? Where the drivers at buses, it was their responsibility to stop, not only stop there, but open the doors and see if they hear something coming. Have y'all ever seen that?
Yeah, I think so.
That little stop sign thing popped up.
Yeah.
And school bus stops, yeah.
Of course,
I've been on 231 heading to Montgomery, and all these kids that live out in the county, all of a sudden you'll be going 65, 75 miles an hour, and a bus will slam on its brakes, and some kids will get out on 231.
schools get 1.08 million for security tech upgrades. Representative Wes Allen of Troy on Tuesday announced more than $1 million in new funding is being made available for school security enhancements, technology upgrades, and other needs at local schools. The new funding, which is based upon student populations, will be divided with $565,000 going to Pike County schools and $511,000 being awarded Troy City schools, and $919,000 being allocated to Dale County schools. So that's a nice little present. That
Found money, yeah.
Exactly. Ladies and gentlemen,
They can use it, I know.
Yeah, our thoughts and prayers go out to Dale County's football team. One of their players collapsed yesterday.
oh no,
Actually was saved on the field with a defibrillator.
I know.
wonderful.
That coach lives in Troy and saved his life with a defibrillator.
Thank goodness everybody should have a defibrillator.
The kid is definitely still not out of it yet, though. I mean, this is a serious condition, and we definitely pray for that family. Of course, Charles Henderson and the Charles Henderson.
I would think that every school, especially football teams or trainers or whatever, need a defibrillator.
I think they've got them, and then they have to be trained on them.
Yeah.
My wife works with the cheerleaders some, and she's familiar with them.
Yeah.
But that kid, from what I understand, it was less than 10 minutes into practice when he fell out. So it wasn't fatigue or heat, and it was at 7 o'clock in the morning.
Yeah.
He obviously had some kind of pre-existing health condition. And they worked on him, from what I've been told, a long time, and thought they had lost him, and got him back. And let's pray for him.
If he makes it, all plaudits go out to the people that did all that to save his life, and that is a wonderful, wonderful story to tell, no question about it. Of course,
Tragic story to tell, and then hopefully it's going to be a wonderful ending because. Charles Henderson, I still just get upset every time I think about what happened to the kid at Charles Henderson, Squirrel, almost, losing his life on the field and then eventually losing his life playing football. It's just still hard to believe.
And he was a great kid and a great player. He'd probably be playing for some kind of...
He would have been in college.
Yeah. And what did you meant by he had a seizure and then he got over it and then had another one? Is that what happened?
I never said anything about seizure with anybody.
Oh, okay. Well, he had a head injury or something, wasn't it?
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. They revived him on the field, but then he ended up not making it after that.
Yeah.
So.
That was one of the saddest days in a lot of people's lives, to be so helpless, in a situation. We talk about football practice, and back when I came around, we'd have 2-a-days until school started. Well, school didn't start till September 1st, after Labor Day. And so you went to practice on August 1st.
Coaches had you that whole time.
That's right. And some people practice 3 times a day, but most time we practice early morning. I can still smell that the grass and the wet grass.
Did y'all work on special teams early in the morning?
Oh, well, we just practiced. We worked a little bit on everything.
We always did punting and kicking.
But the smell of the grass and the sweat and all that was just typical for a high school football. And now you don't hear any of that, and most of the time they practice just once a day during the season. and that's plenty. You know, the great one, and I call him the great one. I hope he's watching our show this morning, Glenn Daniel, who won more football games than most anybody in history. And you know what? He practiced one time a day, and it was at night.
Is that right? Now, his whole career.
And first of all, it was cooler at night. His kids, a lot of his kids worked on farms, and they had to bale hay and had to do responsible things at home. And then he'd get them around 4:30 or 5 o'clock. They practiced just 6:30 or 7 o'clock or somewhere in that.
Well, you know,
range. And look at how many championships he won. He practiced one time a day.
Steve Spurrier always said that if talking about all these teams that stay at their football office until midnight, he said, you know, if you can't do all your coaching by 6 o'clock, there's something wrong with you. And he would cut his guys and his coaches loose and say, go home.
Yeah.
And I think Steve Spurrier did fine.
No question about it. I want to mention the post-70 American Legion is going to the World Series. Post-70 knocked off Shelby County post-555 to win their fourth straight state championship. Things have been slow for post-70 since as they gear up for their trip to the World Series now. A lot of these kids are still in high school and need to be on the football field practicing football, but the most important thing for Russ Higson's team is this World Series, and Post-70 welcome back to town for a game on Sunday with a alumni group, and they had a lot of fun with that, and now
hard to believe Russ Higson's old enough to be a coach.
That's right.
I can remember when he was a little kid.
And of course, right now the tournament is competition is keynote as they get ready to play North Carolina in the World Series, and we're post-70 tournament on Wednesday against Louisiana's representative beginning at noon. They beat post-70 earlier in the summer, and it should be quite a ball game. But well, good luck to this team from Troy and
Where'd you
American
say
Legion.
Where's the World Series been played?
It says the post-70 baseball team will attempt to make their first ever series this week when they head to Tampa to compete in the American Legion Region 3 tournament, and that is quite an honor to make it all the way to the region, and they'll play in the region tournament in Tampa, and then they'll turn around and hopefully go to the championships the next week. It's something I want to mention. Post-70 knocked off Shelby County, as we mentioned, to earn their fourth straight state championship. Isn't that something?
That is something.
And this coach, Russ Higson, has coached most all of that. And what a tremendous...
Well, he's from a family of teachers and coaches.
No question.
So I'm not surprised. But 4 in a row, I was not aware of that. And I've been just moved back to Troy fairly recently. And
that's American Legion State Championships, and it is quite an honor. And they play, the first game that they play will be against Wednesday, and that's today, will be against Louisiana's representatives. And this is the region tournament being played in Tampa. And hopefully, American Legion is pretty much self-financed. They have to raise money, and different individuals put up money, and the parents put up money, and this is as good a baseball as you're gonna find anywhere. American Legion across this country, and you ask any of the people playing in pros right now, a lot of them got there through American Legion baseball, and so this is big-time baseball.
This is the best of the best.
That's right, no question about it.
So what do you have? You have some Charles Henderson and Pike LeBlanc's players playing together?
Oh, yeah, you have quite a few. We've got some kids from other areas. And
outside of Pike County?
American Legion is an age situation, so some of them, like the Genwright twins, they're playing junior college baseball, and they start their second year. Well, their age came within the requirements for post 70, so they were able to play another year.
Yeah, I always remember that you would be high school kids would be playing with freshmen in college. You know, so yeah.
And I'm sure there's some coaches out there saying, "Buddy, you hurry back from Tampa because we got football practices."
Yep.
Hey, where's Pelham, Georgia?
Pelham, Georgia. I'm familiar with the name, but I couldn't tell you where it's located.
Yeah, Troy's got a recent commitment out of a high school kid out of Pelham, Georgia. His name's Darrell Starling. He's a safety out of Pelham, Georgia High School.
Yeah.
He chose Troy over West Virginia and Wake Forest.
Well, that is great.
Ooh, wow.
And another one, I want to say, what is this? Their 17th commitment? These kids will play their senior year.
So. Yeah, you know, Coach Lindsay was on the show yesterday. You know, he can't talk about it, but yeah. So I mean, this is the guys that will hopefully sign in December.
Yeah, Mike, how impressive is Chip Lindsay? What did you get from that?
He's really good. He's a really good interview. He's really you can tell he was in front of the camera and did a lot of interviews at Auburn. He sounded like a pro yesterday.
Now, you know, you're right. I'm sure he had a lot of practice at Auburn. Now, you know, Alabama, we were joking this past week. I think their coaches get 1 day before the season, and then they get to be interviewed at least once during bowl season. Is that right?
Yeah. So I was a sports editor and a newspaper guy in Troy for a long time, and when I would call Coach Blakeney, talk immediately to him. I would call Coach Jacobs, the offense. I'd call a position coach. If I wanted to interview a player, I went and interviewed a player. I went and sat at the dining hall with them and interviewed them whenever I want. Now the access is so limited to just Coach Saban, and then when they do these player interviews, they make 2 or 3 of them available, and then they give them about 10 minutes, and every reporter is there. So there's no way for a reporter to get a scoop. You know,
if you don't get it,
don't
get it early, you won't get to talk to these other coaches. I mean, that's just the way he likes it.
But if a reporter wants to talk to, you know, the right guard, no, it's just, I want to do a feature story on the way you grew up and what an influence your mother was on you. When I come and talk to you at lunch, they won't let them do it. You know, I think that's a shame.
And Saban's one of the very few coaches in America like that, and I don't know why, but he's like that, no question about it. Good article today in the Messenger talking about the Zion Chapel Rebels of Randy Bryant. Mike, you know Randy pretty well.
Yeah, I used to work down there with Randy when he first got the job, and he's a guy that's building a program. It's let's be honest, it's one of the hardest places to win probably in the state of Alabama, and he won 5 games last year, so he's definitely building a program down there and getting his kids to believe. So maybe it's a situation where he can make the playoffs one of these years.
No question about it, and what a great job he's done. And he's an offensive guru. I mean, you know, he worked in Troy University's program for quite a while as a volunteer coach or student coach, and that's how he learned his trade, and he has really done a good job. And of course, they are coming in here I think this is his 3rd year at Zion Chapel, and hopefully he's got a good group coming back. And of course, the schedule is unreal.
It's hard to believe that Zion Chapel's bigger than Elba now for students.
That's right. They're a 2A school, and Elba is a 1A. It's amazing, but looking forward to taking a little trip down there and interviewing his players before too long. One of Troy University's top receivers is Luke Whittemore, a young man from South Florida, Mike, and he's really starting to make a name for himself at Troy. What do you think?
Yeah, he caught 2 touchdowns against Georgia Southern last year and played pretty well last year as a freshman, so he's a sophomore. I'm sure he'll be counted on a lot this year. He's a guy that's got really good hands and runs really good routes. I wouldn't say he's like a super speedster, but he's definitely, can run.
Catch the football. How many times have you heard him say, catch the football? We don't care how pretty you are. We don't care if you're 6'4" and weigh 220 pounds and run a 4.40. We want you to be able to catch the football and catch it where?
With your hands.
With your hands. How many times did
he was good about jumping up and catching the ball. He actually can jump pretty well as well.
You know, they have a drill, and I'll go out and watch them today. One of their drills is that they throw it in the air, and the receiver and the defender try to catch the football, and who comes down with it. That's something Troy works on every day, Mike.
You know, talking about receivers, I read an article yesterday in USA Today or some national publication about Alabama's receiving corps. They call them super receivers, super fast, and talks about all four of them. And there is no doubt that Alabama has never had four receivers this talented. And I wonder how many college football teams have had four receivers this great playing at the same time. Because all four of those guys could be first round or second round picks in the NFL, and they're all playing together at the same time.
Mike, tell us who he's talking about and where they're from.
He's talking about Jalen Waddle. I think he's out of Houston, Texas.
Yeah, he's the real fast guy that also runs kicks back. Is that right?
He was a freshman last year.
You got Jerry Jeudy. He's out of Miami. Then you got Devontae Smith. He's out of Louisiana. And then you got Henry Ruggs III out of Robert E. Lee High School, Montgomery.
So those are four of the best receivers in the country?
Yeah, that's what they say.
Now, do they have anybody? Do they have anybody out there that can get the ball to them?
No, Tua can't throw the ball at all.
Well, what makes Tua so? You know, the thing about Tua is everybody's got him being 6'4". He's just a little over 6 foot.
Yeah.
He's not an imposing. He's not an imposing figure at all, is he?
No.
Nobody's ever said Tua is 6'4".
Well, I mean, people look at him as being a lot taller than he is.
Tua's 6'1" at best.
Tua said that he lost 15 pounds of pudge and fat, and then he gained it back with muscle this year.
Yeah.
And he says he's in the best shape he's been. Something unique about Tua, I think we've talked about this, Mike in South Beach. Tua is a natural right-hander. I saw some pictures of him at Fan Day the other day, and he was signing his autographs with his right hand and throws the football left-handed.
Yeah, isn't that amazing?
Great.
Now, another thing, Mike.
Tua goes back with Sarkisian since he was in the 10th grade. Sarkisian was recruiting him at USC, and he said he watched Tua throw in the wind, like one of the windiest days he's ever seen a kid have to throw in. And he said that he was just amazed at how just pure his throws were in the wind.
I think I heard my little granddaughter in the back. How's she doing this morning?
They both have walked into the room right here.
They have walked into the room. My two granddaughters, ladies and gentlemen,
They get to see Tua this year. That's what I tell my 3-year-old son. I said, now you get a chance to watch Tua. You better remember this.
Mike, we need to find out what we're going to do with our football tickets. So Mike's moved to Florida, and we get Alabama tickets every year. And of course, the only games we go to are the ones that don't conflict with Troy. You know,
I go to all the SEC games. I don't think I'd want to go to New Mexico State or Western Carolina or who else is on that schedule.
So somebody out there that wants to buy some tickets cheap, they can do it, can't they?
I mean, you don't even have to buy tickets to those games. I mean, you can walk up and a guy would basically be emptying out his pockets.
Anybody that wants to see Alabama play or Auburn play, now it's probably harder to get an Auburn ticket than it is an Alabama ticket. You know, people just don't go to.
Auburn doesn't sell out either.
Do they throw them on the ground, or what do they do?
I mean, I've seen it where people throw them on the ground or they just hand them to you.
Well, you know who doesn't
The greatest football program in America, people are throwing the tickets on the ground.
I guess the tickets are paid for since
That's
they're
right.
counted as a sellout, even though there's a lot of people that don't go in the game.
Well, who doesn't go in the game is these sorry students. Don't get me started on them. You always have that one section of the stadium that's empty, and it's the student section.
I've always wondered this.
The thing is, I mean, you can't blame them though when it's 50-0 at halftime about just leaving. I mean, I don't.
But no, they don't even show up at. if they might get there in the second quarter. I guess they're all hungover probably. But
well, Mike, what do you rather to do? Would you rather go to a football game or stay out in the tailgate area with the 4 or 5 beautiful girls and watch it on TV?
These fraternity guys, I'm sure they go early, but I'm sure they all leave with their dates or go back to the sorority houses or fraternity houses, and of course Tuscaloosa, the strip's full of bars as well. So
I tell you what, anybody that's
there's a reason Colette's is probably the biggest bar you'll ever go to on game day anywhere in the country. I mean, you can't even walk in there now. It's unbelievable.
Is that located downtown? Where is it located?
across the street from the Sigma house.
That's located right on the strip.
It was right across the street from my
I tell you what, and of course, tailgating is huge at Auburn, but at Alabama, you can't even hardly walk. Around Denny Chimes, you can't even hardly walk. It's so many people.
Well, it's 100
and people having a good time. People having a good time.
They're spending thousands of dollars on those tents too. It's just amazing to rent those tents throughout the season.
And every tent has a big widescreen TV. They rent the tent and the TV, and then probably the ice deal's probably set up that way too. And it is an amazing thing to go. It'd be worth it just to get a.
Now, where are we going to tailgate
it.
in Troy now that we've got this rec center on campus? I guess
I think they're going to have to move toward the golf course. I can't see any reason why they can't use some of that.
Yeah.
There's a big group in Troy, especially business teams. They always tailgate around the library over there.
Yeah, exactly. We take people in Troy say, "Oh gosh, man, that's a long ways from our
that's nothing compared
our
to
parking place." I mean, they had Auburn or Alabama. They got to walk 3 or 4 miles to get to the game. And Troy folks gripe if they had to walk a half a mile. But that's what college football is all about. Is not only the game but the pageantry around it. Troy is one of the worst places in the world about people staying in the tailgate area and not coming to the game.
Oh, I hate it. I want to get a platoon of Marines and just 15 minutes before kickoff, lock and load and just force everybody into the stadium.
Or if you're going to come to the tailgate area, here's my ticket to the game. Well, what I'm saying, if you're going to go and enjoy all the fun and the atmosphere of college football, at least have a ticket in your hand,
Yeah, if
Don't
we could
go
get,
just to have the fun.
Everybody that was in the outside the stadium, inside the stadium attendance and crowd would look so much more impressive.
I mean, that's the main reason Troy's attendance is the biggest crowd ever. It's like 28,500, and this stadium holds over 30,000. I mean, all those people just don't come into the game if they ever would.
Oh, we've had 30,000, over 30,000 in the area,
and then when people get in the stadium, they don't sit down in their seats. They're gathering up there in the top of the stadium or walking around.
Yeah. Well, listen, one of the great cooks of all time is sitting up there in the booth to our right here, and we don't want to make him mad because as long as he's cooking those good ribs and everything, I'm all for it.
Well, listen, I'm gonna harp on that this year. Is go to the game, have fun, but right before kickoff, go in there and then sit down in your seat.
Well, see, the great thing about Steve Camp is he's one of the great cooks in America, and I promise you, he's got tickets to the game. You know what I'm saying? He's not a guy that goes out there and just cooks and goes home. He's got tickets to the game.
What can't Steve Camp do? Is he a surgeon on the side too?
I tell you what he does though so well is cook.
I think he's a black belt in karate too.
Well, let me tell you something. He can. People just talk about
so he can cook.
What's your Louisiana cuisine, Mike?
You're talking about crawfish.
Yeah, crawfish. Oh, he is a crawfish king. If you want crawfish and want to have a crawfish party, he has the contacts for a great party. And
let me ask y'all
those low country boils also. Nobody does it better. And the key. What is the key to the low country boil, Mike? In your opinion?
Making sure it's in the low country, not the high country.
One thing is you won't.
I don't know. I like shrimp and sausage, and
All right.
corn and potatoes. I like it all.
All right, he just hit it. Your Kelly sausage, and those usually Kelly sausage, and then big,
good.
nice, plump shrimp. You know, don't throw out these little old bitty things you can't even peel. At least have your shrimp large enough that you can peel it.
Yeah,
I think Steve puts mushrooms in his too.
Oh
which I
yeah,
like mushrooms.
oh
like
yeah.
that, too.
Steve does it as well as anybody. And the people, let me tell you this: the people that go to his tailgate area, buddy, I promise you, they are fed. They are fed, no question.
Well, I'm going this year. Hey, what's the nickname of Troy's first opponent, Campbell?
The Camels.
The Camels.
We're playing the Camels.
And you know, the thing is, the logo looks like the same logo as the cigarettes. Is that right? The Camel cigarettes? So, you know, it's located in the Carolinas. I'm sure it's located in tobacco country. Isn't that right?
Yeah, it makes sense to me.
I don't know if that's the one or not. I'll tell you a group that...
All the posters are going to be Smoke the Camels.
Yeah, Smoke the Camels. Also, ladies and gentlemen, Piggly Wiggly. And no question, no better store.
What is their mascot?
And Piggly Wiggly's got a little guy, a little pig, Porky the Pig out front. And
People in other parts of the country just laugh when they hear that name.
but listen to this, ladies and gentlemen, and you're not going to find this any better anywhere. Right now, their boneless ribeye steaks are just $6.98 a pound at Piggly Wiggly, and they've got the fried thighs and drumsticks, which are delicious on the grill for 89 cents a pound. They got the Boston Butts right now running $1.09 a pound, which is phenomenal. Mike, I'm going to put you on hold and see who's calling in right here. Excuse me. Good morning. You're on Today in L.A. How you doing?
Mike, it's Max. How you this morning?
Max Howell calling in from Fulton, Mississippi. Now, he knows a little bit about a low country boil and a little ribs cooking, and we'll be talking to him in a second, Max. We're going to bring in Mike Amos. Just hold on 1 second, and we're going to put you on hold. And we're going to go conference, good, conference. And I think we got both of you. Is that right?
Yeah, man.
I'm here.
All right, okay, ladies and gentlemen. On our show right now, one of the leading
Authorities.
I wouldn't call you an actual prognosticator, Max, but you're a football analyst and one of the best in the country. Is that true?
Well, you know, Mike, I've done it long enough. My dad said, you know, if you want to be good at something, put a lot of time. I put about 50 years in it. So.
Yeah, so you've been around the corner a few times. Let me ask you this before we get started. The quarterback from Georgia Southern. Now, I'm looking at this as Troy, beating them, playing for. Well, he's involved with cocaine. It's a
Allegedly.
well, that's right. But from what I gather, the police pulled him over and they thought they found cocaine and marijuana. That cocaine's serious business, isn't it, Max?
Yeah, listen, Mike. You just have to suspend him until the legal system goes through. You know, you've been around long enough to know sometimes things aren't nearly as positive as they appear to be to start with. So we've had a couple of cases through the years, and we didn't get in the middle of that. We just suspended the kid until the legal system took place. Then whatever came out of the legal system, and we took it up from there.
Yeah, I got you. But of course, this is Wirtz, their outstanding quarterback. They lose him, they're really it would hurt them
When
tremendously.
does Troy play Georgia Southern?
They play
later in the year.
Later in the year, yeah. In
I might have
November.
him back by then.
I don't know how.
Remember, you're still dealing with just modified teenagers.
Yeah.
That make bad decisions, put themselves in bad situations, and how many of us, go back quickly and think about your career where you are today. If you were at the wrong place at the wrong time, you probably wouldn't be doing what you're doing today.
It's just that cocaine is a different.
He's one of the preseason offensive players of the year in the Sun Belt Conference, so it would be a huge loss.
Yeah. And then of course cocaine is a huge element here, and a kid that would.
The article made national headlines because he claimed instead of cocaine on his car that it was bird poop. That's why it made national headlines.
Yeah, exactly.
The story went viral.
Well, and,
Is it bird poop or is it cocaine?
that'll have a big to do.
There's cocaine flying from the air onto your car.
Well, what's his nickname going to become?
Oh God, the cocaine kid.
It's
Yeah.
going to become bird poop kid.
Oh yeah, exactly. No question about it. Max Howell is on the other line, and Max calling from Fulton, Mississippi. Max, are you getting involved deeply in it now, or what?
Well, let's see. I did since Saturday. I've done like 4 radio shows. I've spoken to 2 Lions clubs in 2 different cities, and I made a trip to Montgomery back. So that's been since Saturday.
Oh
Wow.
boy.
Yeah, it's starting to heat up, Mike. It really is.
Well,
Yeah.
tell us what's on your mind. What is the headlines that you've seen in this first week of college football practice?
You know, Bill, mainly it's the warm-up time. It's no contact to begin with, and guys are shoving. For example, Mississippi State, they bring in Tommy Stevens, the former head coach at Penn State. He's going to vie for the starting job against Kenyon Thompson, and that's kind of made the headlines over here. Ole Miss is struggling, and trying to get every headline. They're really trying to rebuild the program after the 2 years.
Well, Max, I'll tell you right now, I say Memphis beats them straight up at Memphis. What do you think?
Well, it's going to be interesting. The Ole Miss is going to score 40 or more, Mike, to win that ball game.
Oh yeah.
Memphis is going to put the points on the board. I don't care if they put them against Central Florida and everybody else. So I think that's a toss-up game. The first 2 games Ole Miss has got, in my opinion, is going to determine the season. They play Memphis on the road and they play Arkansas at home.
Yeah, no question.
Yeah.
Boy, that's a
We'll get a good feel. And I'll say this to you right now: if Matt Luke doesn't win 6 or more, they'll change coaches.
in the middle of the season.
He's an Ole Miss guy. They'll let him finish the season, surely.
Yeah. Well, he's a good old boy. He's a what do they call him?
He's a product. Legacy.
Matt was the right choice at the time, guys. I mean, they needed, the whole program was falling apart from the inside out. So they needed somebody that was a local guy. He went to school there. He'd been there with his staff off and on for 10 years. He was a guy to do that. Now, all that's been said and done. They got 2 new coordinators, offense and defense right now. They ended up holding on to that 5-star running back that was playing pro baseball. They held on to him. So things look right. But guys, you got to understand what league you play in. You got to play Alabama and LSU and Texas A&M and Auburn, and that's going to get an uphill battle.
Yeah, it is. I've been to there. Of course, everybody talks about the Grove being one of the great venues.
Is it? I've never been.
Oh yeah, it's unreal.
Oh my God, it is.
It just.
Everybody needs to go if they can. Huh?
Nobody. What I'm saying, the atmosphere of college football is at Ole Miss as much as any place in the country.
It'll be 10 to 15,000 that show up that never go to the stadium.
Yeah, we were talking about that earlier.
Party in the Grove. That was our entertainment for our recruits, and of course take them in the Grove and let them, beat the alumni and all that. Here's what you have to understand about Ole Miss. Ole Miss school in America that red shirts Miss Americas.
Yeah, that's true. Ole Miss has so many girls from the state of Alabama that go to Ole Miss as well.
Well, it's the yuppie capital. It's beginning to be the yuppie capital of the world, isn't it?
Well, you go back and look at it. The football program is suffered. I mean, it's one of those things where you try to get a hold of the program. I can go back through the whole history of the thing. And I spent a few years there, and guys still live in Mississippi and still deal with a lot of the people that make contribution to there. But Ole Miss is going through a transition philosophically at the educational level. They've gone from an ultra-conservative school to a pretty left-wing liberal school now. Mm-hmm. And that literally has affected the recruiting and the kind of athletes they bring there and the whole projection of that program.
Interesting.
We all know, the national headlines have been all about the mascot. They've had
You're right.
Bear. I mean, it's been, a lot of it's been negative, I'll be honest with you.
But you know what? The atmosphere of college football is there as much as there is anywhere in the country. And like you said, the Grove is sort of like one entity itself. I mean, let's go to the Grove, and a lot of them probably don't even think about going to the game.
That's what he just said. 15,000 won't go to the game.
Yeah, that entity is during the game on game day. That's what's wrong with Ole Miss. That attitude, does not spill over Friday. It doesn't do that. I can't explain what the attitude is. But you walk on campus over there on Wednesday or Thursday, no, it's nothing like what happens on Saturday.
Yeah.
It's a whole different, another group of people come in.
Yeah.
Reason. They'll bring another 40,000-50,000 to Oxford on game day that are avid football fans. That's the most important thing going on. During the week, that football program is, that's like a women's soccer team.
And as bad as we hate to say this, a lot of them don't even care what the score is. They want to go and have a party and
Exactly.
have a big time and
Like they want to do it like they used to do it.
Yeah.
They really lived 20, 30, 40 years ago in that time zone during game day.
the park.
They still
who's gotten bigger though, and has helped their program is Mississippi State because
Yeah.
Well, the Mississippi State situation is, they made a determination down there a few years ago that they were going to compete. And of course, that's when they brought Dan Mullen in, and he did that very well. And of course, then they reached out. Nobody understands the contact Joe Moorhead had for Penn State here. And literally, he made first-year coach. He made some mistakes last year. I thought he should have won 3 more ball games. But he brought a different system, and Fitzgerald was the starting quarterback. They didn't have a lot of depth. And then they lose 7 starters off the defensive side, 2 first-rounders. So, they've got a way to go, but they're on the field. They're what they have Ole Miss right now.
The most important thing, and sometimes I think, with Ole Miss is the party they had on Friday night, sleeping late on Saturday morning, getting up and going to the Grove and staying to the Grove and having a big time there. And then after the game, the big band party after the game, the partying sometimes overweighs the football game. Don't you agree?
Yeah, and they tried to curtail that from the internal. I mean, in other words, you got about 2 hours to get out of the Grove. take the tents there when the game's over, or they'll start to give you a ticket. I mean, they tried everything they can, but you got to remember some of those guys that come in there from the Delta, they could care less about a ticket.
Yeah, exactly.
Those guys got more money than the university's got.
Yeah, exactly. And it's all about the pageantry of college football. And what is that famous word chant at Ole Miss? Hotty toddy.
Hotty toddy, man. That's the
Hotty toddy.
That's
Hey, win, lose or draw, they're gonna have a fun weekend, aren't they?
That's true.
Hey, now, one thing about it, Auburn is a huge tailgate area deal, and it's a lot of difference. Those folks don't like to lose at Auburn, huh?
That's a different attitude at Auburn than at Ole Miss.
I mean, they party and everything, but they want to win the football game first.
Stadium too. They get in the stadium way before kickoff.
What, at Auburn?
Auburn is a good old boy. Ole Miss is a sophisticated. When I went there, I was at Florida State. We beat Auburn in the Sugar Bowl. I caught a plane that midnight in January 2nd of '89. Flew to Oxford. Got up the next morning and started putting the stuff together for that recruiting class in '89. From there on, when you meet with a bunch of guys from Ole Miss and all, it's all about their tradition at that time. It's all about the legacy of the Johnny Balt era, and it still permeates. What they tried to do is they're after you trying to find a new chancellor right now because they can't find one that fits the new liberal.
Yeah.
And I'm just telling you, it's chaos in everywhere but the football program, but it spills over to the
You've talked about this often, Max. It starts at the highest level from the board of trustees and the president. You know, Alabama went through some issues where they had crazy presidents of the university and then crazy athletic directors that were not fits at all, and it hurt the university and the football team.
I tell you one thing about Ole Miss. Everything is quality. I mean, you're not going to see.
The only reason they aren't, competing wise without, they don't have the numbers. I'll give you some numbers. For example, the Booster Club. Some of these numbers I know are outdated now. But when I first got there, that was one of my jobs. I spoke to Booster Clubs all over the Southeast. You have to understand, other than Mississippi, you know where the next two student body bases come from? Dallas, Texas, and St. Louis, Missouri. So you got to go outside, other than what that hardcore Mississippi, the state of Mississippi fan base is, and to secure these people. Well, then you go to looking at numbers. Alabama may have 400,000 people around the country that's been affiliated with the school through boosters, contributions, and alumni. Ole Miss won't have 200,000. I mean, and it's a major, major difference in numbers when you go to trying to raise money and extend the quality of your university.
No question about it. Max Howell on the phone from Fulton, Mississippi, and
But you know, speaking of that tradition, doing my research for my possible Alabama book, that's the one thing I learned is that Ole Miss is Johnny Vault's record stacks up against any legendary coaches.
Yeah.
So from what would you say, from the 50s through the 60s, Ole Miss was a top 10 program.
And for some reason they didn't play Alabama. Do you remember that?
Rarely, yeah.
Some of those great Ole Miss teams didn't even play Alabama, did they, Max?
Yeah, but I can go back and tell you the politics in those days were completely different. The situation with the Ole Miss, when I got there in 89 football season, 90 football season, we won more ball games than had been won since Johnny Vault retired. If that tells you anything about the economic and political transition that they were going through in Mississippi at that particular time. Two of the last presidents, they were more interested in running for governor of the state than they were administration of the university. I mean, guys, I need to write a book on it, to be honest with you.
Yeah, sounds like
no question about it.
I can go back and tell you how they hired Johnny Vault and give you some ideas on the money situation that you won't even believe took place.
Well,
some of that's not for public acknowledgement, but I happen to have known that.
Yeah. All right, now, of course, ladies and gentlemen, we're fixing to hear an uproar from Fulton, Mississippi. But you know who I'm thinking more and more could be the team that is most unlikely to succeed, but might change a lot of people's minds is Auburn. Auburn could be the sleeper of the conference. What do you think?
The schedule, man, you better look at that schedule. How does a university like Auburn go a whole month of October with no home games?
Yeah, you're right.
Think about that. And think about
why did they? Who does the scheduling and how does that happen?
Jay Jeffcoat put that schedule together. Of course, he's no longer there. He's assistant.
No, not Jeffcoat. Jay Jacobs.
Looking at that.
Put that together, and of course, the president, if you remember, during that transition with all the hoopla about Gus, the president at that time gave Gus the $35-40 million contract, which, by the way, the president resigned about 3 months ago. So the leadership at that university is wavering big time.
Auburn plays at Florida, at Arkansas, at LSU in the month of October, and no home games.
They gave the president $4.5 million just to leave.
Man, oh man, that's unreal.
He didn't get as much as Chiswick did.
Max, we're going for a record here. This would be 3 people on hold. Hold on, I'm going to put you on hold a second, see who this is. Hold on a minute. You're on Today in L.A. How you doing?
Hey, Mike, Will Matthews.
Will Matthews. Will, we're going to try to get you in, and let's see what we can do.
We got 2 others on the line.
2 others on the line. Let's see if we can do it. If we do it, this will be a record. All right, let's see. Are you on, Will?
Nope, they're still flashing.
All right, let's see here. All right, here we go.
We lost line 3. We lost Will.
All right, here we go.
Get them back.
We'll be lucky to get them back. All right, are y'all both on?
Yeah, man.
We tried to get Will.
Max, we got you. Hey, Max.
Yeah.
Okay, here comes Will again. One second, Max. We're going to be right back with you. All right, let's see here. We got you on now, both of you. Is that right?
I'm here.
All right, Will, are you here?
You got me.
All right, here we go. We're going to miss out on Will right now, but we're talking to Max Howell from Fulton, Mississippi. And, of course, Auburn is in their first week of practice. This Argy game, Max, is going to be huge for the confidence of this football team. Don't you agree?
I don't think there's any doubt about that, Mike. I like Auburn in that one mainly because of the physicality. I think they'll beat Oregon up physically. Oregon's got a good football team. The quarterback's, ranked in the first 2, 3, and it's coming out for the draft next year. And they got a lot of fire, got a lot of great speed. They got to come across the country, first of all. And second is, you don't see many teams on the West Coast coming this far in the opening part of the season to play and play very physical. Yeah. And that's where Auburn, I think, will stand up.
But, your program, if Auburn wants a good send-off to start the season, this would be a huge send-off because it'll be on national TV. Mm-hmm. It's the number one game out there, isn't it?
But, guys, let me tell you, well, yeah, kind of. Remember the week before, Florida and Miami's already open.
Yeah, that's right.
Before. So, but, remember they did the same thing with Washington, 3 years ago, when Washington was ranked number 3 or 4, and they ended up 8 and 4, something like that.
Exactly right.
I'm concerned for them. They're going to probably start Joey Gatewood, and I think that's the right choice for them. But the political pressure at Auburn, you let Joey and them lose 1 or 2.
That's right.
They're going to stick Bo Nix in there, and I don't know where he's quite ready enough for the SEC.
Exactly. And isn't that amazing how that name, and Nix's name is, of course, he's the son of one of the Auburn great quarterbacks.
I saw him play in high school, though. The kid's legit now.
He got
won 2 state championships. He's a 6'4" kid that can run and throw. And he just came out of a background, as you just mentioned, with Patrick, his dad.
Yeah.
He's schooled, but the maturity factor of throwing him in on the road in an SEC game, I don't care who you are. That's a challenge.
Exactly. Well, Max, we're going to bring in Will Matthews. We might lose you. We're going to try to hold you, though, right here. Let's see. All right, let's go to Will Matthews. Good morning, Will. How you doing?
Good. Y'all doing all right?
Doing great, man. What's going on?
Not much.
Of course, we got Max Howell on the other line, and Mike Amos just jumped off for a second. What's been going on with you? Let me get bring this one right here on. There we go, Max and Will. Is that right?
Yeah, I'm on. Sure.
I'm on.
All right, there we go. Can you be Mike Amos? Are you anywhere out there?
Nope, he's
All
off.
right, we couldn't pull it off.
We got 2 out of 3.
We got 2 people on hold. Max, this guy right here, Will Matthews, never saw a game of dominoes he didn't like.
I followed Will through his career. Remember, I was at Gerald High before Will got there.
Oh, yeah.
I asked him a question. He's also a very good golfer and very well-known golfer. Played golf at Vanderbilt. I asked him the other day which did he like best, and he said dominoes. You don't like dominoes better than golf, do you, Will?
Well, I've changed back to liking golf.
I bet dominoes is a little cheaper to play.
Yeah, exactly. Max, of course, this is the time of year that you're asked to speak. You go to quarterback clubs across the country and your own talk shows, and Wimp Sanderson has you on quite often. What's the talk up in Birmingham?
Well, I'll be up starting next week. I'll be on 2 days a week with Wimp. I'll be Monday and Thursday mornings for 30 minutes. And we'll kind of recap on Monday and put out on the weekend. And then I love being on with Wimp and Barry. In the Tuscaloosa market. Yeah. We'll give you that old full-mouth stuff about, man, I don't know anything about this. Y'all know all this stuff, but don't fool yourself. Yeah. Wimp knows, and he keeps up with what's going on the football team. He loves his basketball.
Yeah.
But he can compete with you in conversation with football on any team in the country.
Well, of course, this is also getting to be the time of the year where you look at a game. The first thing you want to know is what's the line on that game or whatever. And they keep asking you. Here you are, you're speaking, and everybody wants to give you get you to give them the score and the line. Is that right?
Well, I usually stay away from that line situation because, guys, I've been on the sideline. Some coaches keep up with it, so they know that there's folks that follow them can take care of their financial situation. A lot of them can care less.
Have you ever heard a coach say, "What is the line"? Have you ever heard?
They know
on the sidelines. Have you ever heard that?
You guys, I'm telling you, Coach knew exactly what the line was, and he knew it every ball game, not for himself, but he knew it for his followers. and his boosters.
Well, you know, that's the key. You know, hey, just think how many times Alabama folks stay in the stadium because they want to make sure they win the line, you know?
Or when that coach takes a knee when this team's at the 2-yard line and lets the last minute run out.
I tell you what, that can be the worst mistake he ever made in his life because these guys that are giving him hundreds of thousands of dollars, in most cases, have something on the game, you know?
Mm-hmm.
Don't you wonder, guys, when you're up by 6 and you've got first and goal at the 2 and there's 30 seconds left, and you can go in and score and they take a knee.
Yeah.
That makes me want to jump out of the press.
Only Saban could probably get along with that. I don't know anybody else that could.
That happens all the time.
Hey, Mike, let me tell you a story about the line. When I was at Vandy, this is back in the 70s, Alabama was playing in Nashville against Vanderbilt, and the line was 13.5. The wind was blowing probably 40 miles an hour, maybe 50. It was unbelievable wind. A Vanderbilt guy kicked a 91-yard punt in that game.
It rolled and rolled and rolled. Is that right?
The wind took it, and then it just rolled all, But anyway, Alabama's ahead 18-12. And the line's 13.5. And there's 30 seconds left in the game, and Alabama scores to make it 24-12, and Alabama goes for 2. Well, they didn't get it. Well, after the game, some sports writer asked Coach Bryant, why do you go for 2? There, and knowing full well the line was 13.5. And Coach Bryant said, well, I've got a chart that tells me whether chart.
Yeah, exactly.
Hey, let me just, I'll give you a little bit more insight even beyond that, Will. Richard Williams and I were best of friends through the years. He and I came through, he was in Fort Deposit and I was at Prattville. We were the only 2 guys that made the first team All-State team and went to respective schools. I went to Auburn, he went to Alabama. And, of course, I later transferred to Troy and went on, and he stayed at Alabama. But then Coach Bryant retained him. His job was to keep Coach Bryant, keep him in line on the sideline, in line and speak engaged to the way. One of Richard's jobs, and he told me this out of his mouth, to keep Coach Bryant informed of what the line was and how his booster club reacts to them. So that is absolutely a fact.
Ain't that amazing?
Yeah.
Max, back then they could sign about as many people as they wanted to. And Richard Williamson and Coach Meyer, Ken Meyer, you remember that name?
I remember Coach Meyer, yeah.
That's who recruited me in high school. I was actually, I sat on the bench. They would let recruits back then sit right next to the players on the bench.
Oh.
And what I'm saying, I didn't sign with Alabama, but those were the 2 guys that recruited me, with Richard Williamson, and all he wanted to talk about was what's happening in Fort Deposit, Alabama. And then, of course, Ken Meyer was later a great coach for the New York Jets. You remember him?
That's right. Yep.
Richard Williamson was one of the 3 finalists for the job when Alabama hired Coach Stallings.
Yes, he was.
Yeah.
I remember that.
I remember that too, and he was a good coach.
In the NFL, I think he went back to Memphis for a couple of years, but he stayed in the NFL. He finished his career with the Carolina.
Yeah, he coached in pros for
He was the head coach of the Tampa Bay Buccaneers for a year or 2.
Now, I wanted to say was he ever at Pittsburgh? Who was at Pittsburgh? They went to Pittsburgh.
Johnny Mitchell, that was a defensive end at Alabama, has been a defensive line coach at the Steelers forever.
But who was it, though, that coached at Pittsburgh and had won a national championship, didn't he?
Oh, Jackie Sherrill.
Jackie Sherrill, that's what I was thinking about.
I was thinking about the Steelers. No, you're right. It was Jackie Sherrill. He had Dorsett and that bunch.
And he had Dorsett. How good was Dorsett in college?
It was Dorsett till he got to Pittsburgh. Then it became Dorsett.
There were 2 great college running backs. One of them was named O.J., the other one's named Tony Dorsett. Isn't that right? They probably didn't come around at the same time, but they were both great ones.
Earl Campbell.
Who would you have taken, Max? Then seriously now, who would you have taken? Would you have taken Bo Jackson, or would you have taken?
I'd take Smith over either one of them, mainly because of his longevity.
Over who?
Remember, he still owns the rushing yardage for the NFL.
Emmitt Smith.
Oh, yeah. Well, yeah, Emmitt Smith, and of course, you coached him years ago. But now there was a guy named from a little old bitty town in North Georgia that was pretty good too, wasn't he?
Yeah, Herschel.
Herschel Walker. Who was the best? Who was the best out of these four? Who would you have wanted? Herschel Walker, Bo Jackson, O.J. Simpson, or Tony Dorsett? Those four. Who would you want to take? You couldn't have missed with either one of those four, could you?
In college, I would take Herschel Walker. He got so beat up. I read an article the other day that he averaged 35 carries, I think his last year at Georgia. Can you imagine that? 35 carries a game and all the hits he were taking?
In those days, he was a huge running back. He was 32, 35. You know, and they didn't have, most running backs weren't that size. And the other side of that, you're talking about Bo Jackson, what would his career been had he chosen one sport?
Yeah, you're right.
He was splitting his time, see, between baseball and of course, the injury, his hip injury ended it all for him. But the fact is and that's another reason, Mike. I don't think you guys understand it. You can't compare what was going on then today.
Yeah.
The game not only changed the quality of the athlete, the training process, the nutrition that goes with it today. It's really a different type of athlete than played 20 years ago.
Let me tell you a little quick story. Everybody talks about how fast Bo was, and I think he ran 4.27 in the 40-yard dash. Yeah. But when they met on the track, and they ran against each other several times, Herschel and Bo in track. Mm-hmm. Bo would always be leading at the halfway mark, and then here comes Herschel, and Herschel never lost a sprint to Bo Jackson in the 100-yard dash.
I never knew that.
In track. Yeah. Herschel always won, but it was always at the end he would pull away to win. But Bo now for 40 or 50 yards always had the big lead. But you talking about specimens now, Max. There's no bigger specimen than Bo Jackson and Herschel Walker. You'd have to go back to a guy named Joe Don Looney. You ever heard that name?
Believe so.
I played at Oklahoma, a guy named Joe Don Looney. and then how about the great one out of Mississippi that never really played, never really did that much with all the talent. What was his name?
Dupree.
That's another great one right there.
If Barry Smith Schneider is out of his own role, how have to handle more differently.
Yeah.
If you've never seen his highlight films in high school and then on his first year at Oklahoma, first time he touched the ball, he went yards on a sweep. And I'm talking about turning the corner and nobody called him. He weighed 230, 235 at that time.
Well, you talking about Joe Don Looney?
No, Dupree.
No,
Dupree, yeah. You know, a lot of people don't realize that.
He left Oklahoma because Barry Wade coached him and kicked him in the tail, cursed him every other breath. That's the way Barry coached. And that kid was he was psychologically very tender.
Yeah.
And not too mature. And he couldn't handle that. So he went home.
Yeah, that's right.
Tell him what they spent trying to get him back to come back to Oklahoma.
Yeah. Now, did he play in the game that Alabama beat Oklahoma when President Kennedy was at the game? And that game, Leroy made 30 tackles in that game.
I don't remember.
Yeah, Dupree played in the 70s, in the late 70s, early 80s, and this was.
Well, that was during the time though where Alabama was just starting to dwell under Bryant, and that I remember that game was played in the Orange Bowl, and.
But you think Herschel Walker. He just, all the hits he took, I understand why he wasn't the dominant player in the pros and the NFL because he had taken so many hits and had so much wear and tear on his legs in college.
Yeah, exactly. You know, the great thing about both of them, you think about this, Bo and the great one out of Georgia, Herschel, they were decent people. You never heard any trash on either one of them. They were decent people, and they were great role models for kids.
Yeah, that was a little more prevalent in those days, Mike, than it is today. And I don't know what the difference is. I think that the way kids are raised today, and the parents, a lot of them don't give them the discipline. They start promoting when they're 10 years old and all that stuff.
Yeah.
You got to look at, of course, Bo came out of Birmingham, and Herschel came out of Wrightsville, Georgia. That was 1 or 2 races.
Little bitty town, wasn't it? Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, but he was such a talent.
Yeah. Well, let me tell you the difference, too, something that hurt Bo Jackson. The first 2 years he was at Auburn, they ran him out of the wishbone, Now, Herschel, he ran out of a tailback. He was a great tailback, and, he lined up 7, 8 yards deep. But Bo, you knew one of the things that he was going to do, he was going to have to run to the right because that's where they were set up in the wishbone.
You take away half
Unless
the
they
field.
ran some kind of misdirection or
He didn't get a lot of carries either.
Pat Dice offense and philosophy. Here we are. Here we come. We are who we are.
Yeah.
If you can stop us, stop us.
That's right. And think about it. If they hadn't had him in that wishbone, he would have broke some NCAA rushing records, probably.
Yeah. Yeah, he was, we can always go back and look at, but coming along, and even today, here we are sitting talking to him. How long has it been since Bo been on the field?
Yeah.
35 years.
Yeah, that's right. Well, of course, ladies and gentlemen, we're talking to
Max Howell.
Max Howell, and we're talking about some of the great players of all time. Max coached 2 of them. One of the, of course, Emmett Smith was one, and he coached him at Escambia High School in Pensacola. And then, of course, the great one out of Florida State. You were able to work closely with both of them. Compare the two, Emmett Smith and
Dion.
Two different kind of guys, Mike. But philosophically, personality-wise, Dion knew from the time he finished elementary school what he wanted to do. He was already a talent. Remember, too, he came to Florida State. He never was on scholarship with us. He played baseball for the Yankees out of high school, making $60,000 in the summertime. He brought his own guys from Central Florida to Florida State. I lived at the country club in a condo. He lived next door. he could call the shots, but he was mature enough. Listen, guys, all the stuff about Dion, he created that image after he left Florida State.
Would he have been a great tailback? Would he have been a tailback?
He could have been anything, Mike. He ran a 4.26.
Yeah, no, he was legitimate, wasn't he?
He was legit. He played. Look, the only guy in the history of sport that hit a home run and scored a touchdown the same day. Professional baseball.
Yeah.
He could have been a great quarterback.
All right, was he a decent individual? Was he a role model?
But look, we used him on the road. That was the time that drugs were permeating high schools and all. We used him on the road as a speaking. I don't know that ever took a drink of alcohol or ever smoked a joint or any of that kind of crap.
Yeah.
He was an ideal guy to coach. Now, the day that he left us, was after the Florida game, he was a junior year. We beat Florida and Emmett and them. They brought Emmett Smith up there. Emmett, like 94 yards, set the SEC scoring record, and we knocked him out at 54. And, of course, we went on to win that ball game. But that night, Dion came out of the dressing room in a tuxedo and a top hat, had a limo waiting at the gate for him. He became Dion that night, not before that.
Isn't that amazing? Now, Emmett Smith, you coached him in high school, and you know as much about him as anybody. I was at the game in Tuscaloosa, his debut as a pure freshman, and I bet he ran the ball 30 times at least in that ball game. And it was nothing real flashy. He just,
That's right.
he didn't outrun anybody, but it seemed like he always got the extra yard,
He was never flashy in the NFL for 16,000 yards.
That's right.
He ran fast enough. I held a watch on him 100 times. Never ran better than 4 or 5, ever.
Out of all of these great players, and we just talked about some of the greatest running backs in history. Was Emmett probably as fine an individual as there was out there?
He's not physically. He was 5'9", 5'10", 210, 215.
And just did run 4.6, didn't he? He wasn't really that fast, was he?
No, but how many times do you see him caught from behind?
Yeah.
I'm just telling you now, guys, there's a difference what he runs on the watch, and a lot of guys, what they run on the watch and what they do in the field.
Yeah, exactly.
On the field.
Yeah.
See, some run out of fear.
Yeah, we're going to take a break, Max. This show is brought to you by Premier Dodge, Chrysler, Jeep, and Ram trucks on the bypass. I just got through buying a brand new Jeep, and I love it. And the prices were the best I've gotten anywhere on that vehicle, and I got it right here in Troy, Alabama, at Premier Dodge, Chrysler, Jeep, and Jason Gregory and that staff right there are dealing when it comes to new cars and trucks at Premier Dodge, Chrysler, Jeep. We'll be back.
Are you girls ready?
We've been ready. Let's do this party. Shh, it's supposed to be private.
So guys, is it time yet?
Well, what's going on?
It's a big celebration.
It's our 1-year anniversary.
The party is on.
Let's get this party started.
Party!
Safety first at Wiley Sanders Truck Line. At Wiley Sanders Truck Line, we practice safety first. That's right, safety first. Remember, school is about to start. Look twice, then look again. Wiley Sanders Truck Line, where safety is first. Wiley Sanders Truck Line, Blue Cross Blue Shield, 401k, up to 4% of your gross pay. We match it. 4% of your gross pay. Wiley Sanders Truck Line, Troy, Alabama. Drive for the best. Wiley Sanders.
Troy Cable Security makes it easy to stay aware and stay in control of your home wherever you are. User-friendly interface allows easy navigation for lights, locks thermostat, video, and garage doors. Never worry about leaving your garage door open or the front door unlocked. Your mobile app can send alerts to your phone for alarm and no alarm events. Know when your children arrive home from school with video response. Make sure your home is powered by Troy Cable Security for ultimate access, awareness, and protection.
A personal touch, a high level of trust. Whether it's checking and savings accounts, personal or business loans, or our local friendly service. That's what Troy Bank and Trust customers expect. But now we offer more. Free identity theft protection for our new and existing customers, protecting your family's time, money, and good name from identity theft. Because protecting your identity is now a big part of our identity.
Hey folks, are you tired of spending hard-earned money on a gas grill only to have it burn up in less than 2 years? Not to mention burning your food. Here at Southern Grill and Patio in Troy, Alabama, we carry the Holland Grill line. They've been around since 1988, and there are people right here in Troy that have had theirs for over 20 years. These grills are guaranteed not to flare up.
You can grill, steam, or smoke on your new Holland Grill today. Come see us at Southern Grill and Patio in Troy, Alabama, inside Town and Country Flooring Center.
Safety first at Wiley Sanders Truck Line. At Wiley Sanders Truck Line, we practice safety first. That's right, safety first. Remember, school is about to start. Look twice, then look again. Wiley Sanders Truck Line, where safety is first. Wiley Sanders Truck Line, Blue Cross Blue Shield, 401k, up to 4% of your gross pay. We match it. 4% of your gross pay. Wiley Sanders Truck Line, Troy, Alabama. Drive for the best. Wiley Sanders.
Back to our show, ladies and gentlemen, brought to you by Sisters Restaurant. And hey, listen, talk about all the great places to eat within 100 miles of Troy, Alabama. How about 2 miles from Troy, Alabama? Sisters Restaurant, as good a buffet as you're going to find. And you can tell Paula Dean I said it. As good a buffet as you're going to find anywhere is at Sisters Restaurant. They had a, Max, and of course you'd love this, they had a bread pudding there the other day that was about as good as I've ever eaten. And then they poured this solution on top of it. Boy, I tell you, it was really good.
What was that solution, Mike?
Well, it was a sauce. It was a hot sauce that they put over it, and boy, it was really good. No question
Let me
about
tell
it.
you, butter, sugar, and rum is the best.
That's right, yeah. We're talking to the All-American chef, Max Howell, and of course we're talking about some of the great running backs of all time, and he'd been around them, and of course the great running backs, and you talk about Emmitt Smith, you know, he wasn't the fastest guy out there, he wasn't the biggest guy, he wasn't the strongest guy.
He just got yards.
He had vision. What would you call it of a great back?
Well, you know, I think that you have to analyze each one of what they brought to the table. It's nowhere near like Herschel or O.J. or Bo or any of those guys because of his physical stature. but he made up for. He had two things he had, guys. Yeah, he had an inherent vision in a quick step. That was first. But guys, he was miraculous strong for a kid his size. I mean, I think I told you the story. I ran the weight room when he was there. After he signed for Florida, he came in. He had not picked up a weight since January. Played basketball in the off season, and then of course being recruited, he had over 200 scholarship offers. Traveled all over the country and did all that. Came in July when he got his workout sheet, and he stayed in the weight room about 10 minutes. Fixed 320 pounds 8 times at that time. 600 pounds on the squat, did it 6 times, and deadlift 450 5 times. It walked out. I mean, it was, and he hadn't been on the weight room. That was just inherent body strength, and that was one of his major attributes that kept him alive as long as it did.
Now, who coached him in college most of his career?
That was before Spurrier. Galen Hall.
Yeah, I was wondering who coached. That's right, Galen Hall.
Yeah, it was Galen Hall. When I first went to Ole Miss, him had just taken off and gone to the NFL. After his junior year, we went down there with an Ole Miss team and beat them 21-6 or something like that, and they fired Galen pretty soon after that.
You know who Galen Hall was? He came out of Penn State University against in Bear Bryant's early days. It was a Galen Hall touchdown pass that beat Alabama 7-0 in college.
Who was on the field in that play?
And Bill Rice, the senior, was on the field in that play. But that was one of the early losses, 7-0, and Galen Hall, who was a quarterback at that time.
That's the coldest game he ever played in.
But Galen Hall, he took advantage of a situation. He was an assistant coach at several different places. And at Florida, he just happened to be there, didn't he?
Well, he was there when Charlie Pale got
that's right.
Got eliminated, remember?
Yeah.
And he was promoted from within. And I'm going back. Mickey Andrews was on that staff, and Pete Jenkins. There were 3 or 4 other guys that I worked with through my career. And really, what he got dismissed for, the NCAA at that time had a rule that the university set this for the assistant coaches. He got on the road and raised money, not for himself, but raised money for the assistant coaches.
Yeah.
And they fired him for that.
Well, Matthews, what's going on in Ozark at the Matthews Law Firm? Of course, we're talking football today, and everybody's getting excited. You getting excited, Will?
I can't wait. Now, my daughter's running the show today because I'm on my way to Abbeville to Henry County. I've got a case over in Abbeville today.
Okay. Great town, Abbeville, Alabama. There's one guy over there that runs Auburn University, wouldn't you say?
Well, let me tell you this. Y'all listen to this. In 17 days, 9 hours, 42 minutes, Miami and Florida will tee it up, and that starts.
The yellow man, the old yellow man, though, will he be walking around Abbeville today somewhere?
No, he owns Abbeville, no question about that.
Hey, I think he owns Auburn University too. I bet he was around somewhere when this guy left Auburn, don't you think?
Isn't he the wealthiest guy in Alabama?
He just gave Auburn $14 million.
Well,
for a cooking school. So now they've got a cooking school.
Oh God!
Giving them $14 million for that.
Well, that's a lot of ovens, isn't it? A lot of ovens.
Yeah.
It's called culinary arts now.
Yeah, he is the richest man in Alabama, and he's worth almost $1 billion.
And it's all about, if it don't say osmos on that yellow tag, believe you me, you don't want it. Is that right?
You know who came up with that ad campaign?
Who?
A guy named Flat Slayton, who's from Montgomery. He went to Troy University for a while.
And he came up with, if he don't say osmos on that yellow tag, believe you me, you don't want it.
He came up with the Yellow Man advertising campaign. He was a fraternity brother of mine.
Yeah. And you know what? Why don't more people use Pat Dye? Pat Dye could do that better than anybody.
Hey, Mike, I will tell you 2 great coaches that worked for Jimmy Rain.
I can tell you one of them.
Well, one of them is the former head coach at Clemson, wasn't it?
Will Muschamp and Kirby Smart were working for Jimmy Rain when they were out of coaching for a couple of years.
Let me tell you another one. Will Sanderson.
Yeah, Wimp did, yeah.
When Wimp was dismissed from Alabama before we went to Arkansas, Jimmy hired him to sit in the lobby and entertain him. And I ain't going to tell you what he made, but it was figures. I can tell you that.
Well, he's a great guy. I know that. I've met him and known him for a long time. And, you know, I used to see him down at Sunnyside Grill eating breakfast a lot down there. And, you know, everybody down there knew him by his first name, you know.
Oh, yeah.
And quite a guy. We've got Will Matthews on the phone today. And, of course, a guy that
I got a question for
that
y'all.
knows a lot about golf in our part
How
of the
many
country.
people from Auburn you think will go to Dallas, to Jerry World for the game?
I would say at least 50,000.
All right.
Yeah.
What do you think, Max? You think there'll be a lot of Auburn folks go out to Dallas?
It'll be an Auburn crowd, no doubt.
Yeah. Max, you still on?
Yeah, I'm right here. I'm just
Max, a question we had yesterday, we were talking about, you know, Troy's just put down a brand new carpet, and it is beautiful, but it is hot as it can be. There's no question about it. But you notice that most of the teams in the SEC are still using grass. Is it because they got guys that can grow grass, or do they think grass is better?
I think they still look at the injury factor, Mike. It's the fact is the grass will turn up sometimes, and the cleats don't get stuck in it, and that's what the bottom line is all about. The cost, it started with artificial with a cost. That day's gone now with the big programs. The money doesn't matter. It's about saving the kids, and that's I think the reason they still.
Well, you feel like the real grass is better for them?
Yeah, that's what all the indications show.
Well, you know, this new stuff, you know, this is supposed to be the most modern surface around, and of course, a bunch of the pros are using it now. But like you said, it's sort of changing the ball game around a little bit, don't you think?
Yeah, when you plant and try to cut, the roots doesn't pop out of the ground.
Yeah.
It stays solid, see, and sometimes those cleats get stuck. And guess what gives? Knees.
Well, you use a different type of shoe, though. You use cleated shoes for grass, and you know the old screw-on cleats. Is that right?
That's true. But then what about when you're playing in the rain or it's down?
Yeah, that's right.
Traction, see. I mean, it's pluses and minuses, either one. And
Yeah.
I think
as far as upkeep and
How many teams in the SEC have artificial turf? I know of two. It might be three.
all right, let's see. Vanderbilt has artificial turf, don't they?
Vanderbilt and Ole Miss are the two I'm thinking about.
Yeah. How about Tennessee? They still real grass?
Yeah.
I think they are.
Tennessee's real. Tennessee's
Arkansas is artificial, isn't it?
I think so.
Yeah, I can't remember.
But again, you know, it's a lot easier to look after. You don't have to water it.
I don't know about Missouri. If Troy's playing at Missouri, we better find out.
Yeah. Max, we've asked you this before, and of course, we appreciate you being on our show. And of course, you know, people are always asking you who has a shot at Alabama. I think LSU does. I think LSU got a real good shot at them.
From everything we've heard, and I think LSU's going. They're up and coming. You know, Steven Smiger was an offensive coordinator, and Ogeron put him in charge of Burrs, but they went and hired a quarterback coach for the Saints. So I think you're going to see an improvement in Burrs this year as far as the offense. And the defense returns 8 starters off the defensive side.
And let me tell you this, Orgeron's probably as hard a nosed and probably as tough a coach as there is in college football, wouldn't you think?
Yeah, I think so, but I think he's wised up, Mike. You know, he used to take everybody on physically and knock them around when he was at Ole Miss, but after he got with Southern Cal and came back to LSU, he's mellowed in that respect.
Yeah.
Verbally, he still, you know, barks at them and all that stuff, but he didn't jump down there and take them on head on it, you know, like he used to. But guys, we're gonna see how good LSU is. Second week to go to Texas. They play in Austin.
Yeah.
So we'll get a chance to evaluate them pretty quick.
And if they get Texas, that confidence level will sure go up. And then they play Northwestern State. Then they add Vanderbilt. Then they play Utah State. And then they got a big game at home with Florida on the 12th of October.
Very true.
Then they go to Mississippi State on the 19th. Auburn at home against Auburn on the 26th. And then they play at Alabama on November the 9th, and that's one to check.
If they beat Texas and get that momentum you guys are talking about, and then these other big games being in Baton Rouge, you would say they have a real good chance of being undefeated when they come to Alabama.
And see, the big game on November the 30th, Texas A&M is in Baton Rouge. Let me tell you, if they could get by, I'm saying a lot right here, but if they could get by Alabama, they could possibly go undefeated and win a national championship. What do you think?
I got them at 10-2 right now. They're going to lose either to Florida, or I'm pretty sure they'll lose to Alabama. And then we don't know that A&M ball game, could go either way with them right now. They lost that one in 14 overtime.
Yeah, exactly.
74-72. And but they learned from that, by the way. But I think realistically, this time of year, they're probably a 10-2 team. But you're right. Once you get them both, they don't have any injuries. Here's the thing: where did Burris goes now?
Yeah, that's right. That's the key. The whole key. The reason I'm saying everything I'm saying is because they finally look like they got a quarterback they can win with.
I was watching.
I'm gonna tell you though, guys. I won't tell you. And I know we get close to the show, but things you better watch with two football teams in the SEC, and that's Alabama and Georgia. Neither one have a backup quarterback that can play, that can win in this league.
That's
Neither
right.
one of them do. I don't care about Matt Jones. I don't care about Tua's brother.
If they go down, they're in deep trouble. Is that right?
I'm seeing 9-3. If they go down early, both teams are 9-3 teams this year.
Yeah, exactly. Well, Matt, go ahead.
I was watching Paul Feinbaum's shows back on the SEC network. He must have had a little sabbatical for a week. And yesterday they had a writer from Louisiana. He made an interesting point. He said that LSU could lose to Alabama, win all the rest of their games, and still make the playoffs. And, I said, yeah, he's probably right there. With that schedule, if they beat Texas, they beat Texas A&M, they beat Florida, and then they lose a close game to Alabama, I would think they'd have a great chance to make the Final Four.
Right now.
I think everybody's pretty well got Alabama, Clemson, and Oklahoma there. But that fourth team, I think then it will determine what the Big Ten does. The politics of getting that fourth team in there, they don't want to put two SEC teams in if Michigan or Ohio State can get to that level. And, if they're both either 11-1 or 10-2, I think they'll warrant some looks. But we don't know yet. You're right. It's a lot of questions got to be answered between now and January.
Max Howell, of course, on the phone with us today, and Max. There's a big wedding in Troy. I hope you'll make it.
What is that?
I'll talk to you off the air, but there's a big wedding coming up in Troy.
I saw that, but I didn't. Nobody posted dates, times, or anything.
It's on the 25th, and
I'll have to see. Mike, between me and you, I'm a little shy with weddings.
Yeah. All right, now this is what a lot of people have said around and waited.
I had a couple that didn't work out too well.
All right. Well, let me just say this, Max. A lot of folks have hung on and said, when are they going to get to it? When are they going to get to it? What's for dinner, Max?
Well, this past weekend we had a bunch down on the river. And we did ribs. Man, this time of year, I don't know. Do
you like the long ribs or the short ribs?
We did the long ribs this time, the real meaty ones. I'll be honest with you. I boiled them first to be sure they were tender through and through, and I put them on the grill. And I told you before, I use two bases. I use a vinegar and salt, and I use a vinegar and brown sugar to sear. And I baste them every time I flip them, and keep the fire hot. Because I want the crispy on the outside, but yet certainly well done on the inside. But the big meaty ribs, I always parboil those to start with. And,
you eat like Robin Hood, don't you?
Tough. I don't like them dry. I hate dry the meat.
Yeah, me
dry.
too. Me too.
About doing that. So we had a good one though. We did coleslaw and baked beans and garlic bread and all that stuff. And all our guys in summertime, we do the heavy chocolate stuff in the winter. But they like lemon pies, key lime pie. That's kind of the dessert factor. Then, of course, they always top it off with their favorite beverage. And they sit around on the porch. And it poured down rain up here, guys, on a Sunday afternoon. We got 3 inches.
Y'all loved it. Max, thank you so much for being
right on
with
the
us.
river, and it was about a beautiful sight. It's about 75 degrees. It was a great
You know, the most pleasant thing in the world is after a heavy rain, seeing that steam come up.
That's right.
I love it.
Well, see, we're right on the river, Mike. I mean, the Tennessee Tom Big is about where our house is about 300 yards across. I mean, it's not a stream. It's a river, and it's travelable. Barges go up and down it constantly.
Yeah.
But it late right at sunset. After that rain, I saw the most complete rainbow I've ever seen.
Yeah,
because I would have jumped the far, run to the end of the holes there, but I didn't find it.
Exactly.
But we had a great day.
Max, thank you so much for being with us, and look forward to seeing you next Wednesday. And hey, you get fired up, I know, and we appreciate you.
Thank you guys so much. I always enjoy it.
Max Howell, a very well-known football analyst, and we appreciate him. Want to mention our good friends at Premier Dodge Chrysler Jeep and Ram Truck on the bypass. Also, Maxwell, the Max Federal Credit Union on the bypass in Troy, and of course, a good friend of mine there. And of course, they're doing business after business with Max. Yes, sir, Pete, my buddy. And also our good friends at the Troy Regional Medical Center, and all of our sponsors. We appreciate them so much. We'll see you tomorrow bright and early for Today in L.A.